Here we are with another episode of Coach Kern's Corner. I am your host, Luke Kearns. And those of you who have been following for the last couple episodes, I'm thankful and appreciative of you for following along this journey. I told myself to really not focus in on, how many people are subscribing, how many views am I getting. I actually really enjoy doing this. And like I said in the beginning, like if this flops, that's fine because I'm really pushing myself to get to that next level and outside of my comfort zone. But I, I also know that I'm a driven man, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we can get people hearing what I have to say. Whether or not you agree with it, that's totally fine. That's your own prerogative. But when it comes to training, and then with other things that I'd like to share, I'm just passionate about it. And I just want to get other people to hear what I have to say. And so today's Sunday. I'm recording on a Sunday. And this past weekend was my son's birthday. He's 2 years old, which is absolutely wild to believe. But thinking about his journey and his story, Molly and I, one of these times, we want to give kind of like a 3 series episode on that whole situation. And, for me to see how God provided in every instance through the good times and the bad times, I think our story will reach quite a few people in maybe challenging what they actually believe in. And for people who may not believe that there is a God, maybe have this story push their belief system of like, okay, there's no other explanation as to how this possibly could happen besides the fact that there is a loving God who wants to know you, who cares for you, and wants a relationship with you. And so, not to get down that story just yet, so that's kind of a teaser coming down the road for those of you who really want to hear our story. Um, it'll bring some tears. It'll probably bring some tears to Molly and I just because it was such a trying time for us. But we're excited to share that. But I say that because think about he's 2 years old now. Just being grateful and blessed to have a son who is healthy, who's strong, and just the way God has provided for us. I couldn't be more thankful and blessed by God to be able to do the things we do and to have the family that we have. So I just wanted to share that. And if you're listening, just take time and just appreciate the things you have and be grateful for the things that you have. Because if you take a look at a lot of different places in the world, they ain't got nothing compared to what we have. And some of y'all are still complaining about not having the latest phone or not having these type of shoes or this type of clothing. It's like, if you woke up, that's a blessing. And if you have a roof over your head and you got food to eat and clothes to put on, holy smokes, you are doing probably better than 50 to 60% of the entire world. Okay, so keep that in perspective. Switching gears with what I want to talk about today, 3 reasons why I believe every athlete should be sprinting. I'm kind of going to run through it pretty quickly, but I'm going to give specific examples of different athletes that I have coached that aren't sprinters and don't actually participate in track, but have benefited from sprinting. And so, reason number one, sprinting will make you faster. I know it's a shocker, right? But if we take a look at the measurement of which sprinting is used, which is velocity or meters per second, so very easy and simple here. If I'm a sprinter and I'm covering 8 meters per second, that's exactly what I'm doing. So every second that goes by, I'm covering 8 meters. And so if we take a look at the weight room, for example, a lot of colleges and I would say private facilities will use velocity based training to really measure bar speed of their athletes and a specific quality that they're trying to hit on the force velocity curve. Okay, I'm not going to get down that as much, but there's ways that you can kind of use weight to measure a specific quality that you're really trying to drive home with athletes. And this is me personally. And if you're a coach listening and you've experienced someone to hit a higher number than this in the weight room, let me know. But the fastest that I have personally seen is around 3 meters per second. And if we want to take a look at sprinting, okay, and I would say kind of the average of a sprinter or an athlete that is in high school is going to be around 7 to 8 meters per second. Some of your better athletes are going to be pushing 9 meters per second. And then I would say the very high end athletes, or I would say even sprinters at the high school level, are going to be more towards the 10 meters per second. And so even if we just use a lower threshold of 7 meters per second, if we take 3 meters per second, which is the fastest we've ever seen, or I've ever seen someone move a bar, that is a vast difference, right? And I see so many athletes that are just like, oh, I'm just going to spend time in the weight room and I'm going to lift and I'm going to get faster. And it's like, are you? Like, how are you going to actually translate what you're doing in the weight room onto the field, onto the court, anything that involves movement and speed? How are you going to get faster if you are not sprinting, which is you are moving the absolute fastest that you can and faster than anything that you can in the weight room? Okay, that doesn't make sense to me. And so, you know, as an athlete, don't you want to be the best on the field or court? I mean, that's why I trained. I wanted to be the absolute best. And if you're an athlete listening, I hope that's you and you're competitive enough to be like, yo, I want to be the best that I can be. And if I want to get there, I should be sprinting 1 to 2 times a week, 1 to 2 times. And that brings me to point number two is it's going to help you be efficient with your movements for your sport. And what I mean by that is if my max speed is 20 miles per hour, I do some sprint training and I progressively get faster. Now, let's say my speed is at 22 miles per hour. Okay. I'm not sure the exact percentage of what 20 is of 22. Let's just say 80 to 85%. I could be off. But even then, okay, if I know that I can move efficiently on the field or court 80% of my max, I'm going to be able to uh, have higher outputs for longer. I'm actually going to be able to conserve more energy during a game because now my speed reserve is higher. And I have the ability to maintain really high outputs, even though I'm not actually going at 100% of my maximum speed. And so, I just think in terms of sprinting, like if I increase my ceiling of speed, what was now 100% is now my 80%. Holy smokes. And my 80% is other people's 100%. Just think about what that does for you as an athlete, right? But also, like, if you're maybe not an athlete that requires sprinting all the time, and I'm thinking more so swimmers, and I've been able to coach, definitely at Holland, we had the swim team come in quite a bit. And even when I was in Charlotte, I trained quite a bit of swimmers, and they don't like dry land training one bit. But I will tell you, when they'd come in maybe twice a week, we would always sprint first. And each week I would kind of see their time start to drop. And I tried to just hammer home the benefits of them sprinting. And so then I would start asking them, okay, like, yeah, we're getting faster in here. We're getting a little stronger, which, great. It's never a bad thing to be strong. But I was really hoping they would buy into the speed aspect. And so I would start asking them, okay, how are times going on in the pool? And a lot of them were hitting PRs. And I'm not saying it was just because of the sprint training. It was alongside of what they're doing training wise with the pool. But sprinting definitely helped. And it definitely helped because the speed at which you are sprinting requires your CNS or your central nervous system to send the signals to your body as fast as possible. And if I can increase that threshold or my brain's ability to send those signals, I'm only going to be more efficient if I'm going to be moving at a lesser percentage than 100. And even for swimming, if I can increase my threshold of my brain to send signals to my body, what was my 100%, free time in the 50 meters or 100 meters is now 80%. I'm going to be more efficient and I can push my speed in the pool. And so it's really cool to see the swimmers do really well. A lot of them, again, increase their sprint times with me, had a successful season. And then brings me to point number three. Sprinting will enhance all qualities, and this is my opinion, all qualities of an athlete, right? And so I specifically think of a young gal that I'm coaching or that I have coached who's a D1 volleyball player. And she trained with me speed wise last spring, but at the same time was doing volleyball. I should say she was on our track team. Specifically, she just wanted to get faster, but then she ended up having a really good year, which was awesome. But it was really unique because on her club volleyball team, she came up to me one time. She was like, "Coach, this is like blowing me away at how much sprinting is helping my volleyball game." She's like, "My coach can tell I'm jumping higher. She can tell that I'm being able to move better on the court. I'm not doesn't look like I'm always stuck in mud." Not that she really had that quality, But sometimes in volleyball, if you get in certain positions, it kind of gets you some time to come out of them. And she wasn't really having that issue anymore. And especially the way that she was attacking the net and the ball, being a hitter, like she said, I'm jumping higher than I've ever been. And so what's interesting though is she was just home for Christmas break, and she had about 4 to 5 weeks of break. And so I trained her for 3 or 4 weeks. I was like, yo, let's get back to what we know works. And it's so interesting because, she came back to me. Her vert wasn't very good. Her sprint times weren't very good. And all I focused on was speed. And I focused on some other things, but the number one thing I wanted to hit home with her was we need to increase your speed, because you haven't done any speed training since being at school, which is bonkers to me. And just in 3 weeks, we increased her vertical by almost or over an inch. And then her flying 10 time was getting back kind of to where she was before she left. And, if you're an athlete out there, like, sprint. I'm baffled at how many athletes will look at TikTok, will look at Instagram, and just see all these, exercises that they believe that they should be doing because, this person has this and they look like this and they're doing this. Chances are the person that's doing that is one of the probably top 0.5% of athletes that's actually able to achieve those things. And most of the time, they're not even sprinting. Aesthetically, they might look good, but if your goal as an athlete is to be the absolute best that you can be, and you're trying to mimic other people that are just posting things on how good they look or how many followers they have or how many likes they get, and you're not, maybe listening to a coach that actually has real experience with athletes that have trained and competed at an extremely high level, you might need to start rethinking some things, right? And so if you're an athlete listening, please sprint. If you're a football player, you need to run track. Like, there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I'm sorry, that might offend some football guys. Run track. And if you even look at the NFL, especially on the combine day or when guys get drafted, I think it was 2019. There's a company called Tracking Football, and essentially they look at how many guys that got drafted ran track in high school, and it was running back, or I should say, I think it was 61% of guys that got drafted competed in track and field in high school. Running backs and receivers were above 70%, and corners. 70% of guys in the NFL ran track in high school. And so if we just want to debate, man, like, I'm getting stronger, or, I've put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle, which young guys, you kind of should as you develop and you actually have natural testosterone that is being released as you get older and you mature. But if you're just trying to lift to look good, if you're just trying, and this goes for everybody, not just guys and girls, like, if you're just trying to lift to look good and just, try to please other people, like, you need a different mindset, because that ain't going to work. And if you haven't really caught on to how fired up I get about this, it frustrates me to see how many athletes miss the point with how beneficial sprinting is for all aspects of training. Okay. Take a look at some of the best athletes in the world. Line them up on a track, and I guarantee you they are going to be fast. Always. Always, always, always. Okay. So if you're an athlete watching, please just go sprint. You don't even have to join the track team, but you need to start sprinting to improve all qualities of being an athlete. That is it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.